shows several times a year. It depends. This is one of the artists in the studio, Peggy Robles Alvarado. But sometimes these other organizations that they come and they do something, or it's ourselves that we put a show. Whenever we have something like the resident artist, we put up like 3 to 4 shows a year from each resident artist, and sometimes we create other shows. We have studios for artists. I think it's mostly Bronx artists, and if it's not Bronx, it's Upper Manhattan, like uptown artists, and they're below regular rent, below average, because it's very expensive to have a studio, and it's very hard to be an artist and have a studio and create. And this is the second part of the gallery. That is another studio that we can use either for workshops or for exhibitions. Like now it's a whole installation exhibition, so we can do any workshops inside. But we do have a community room that any artist that rents in here can book for free. And if they need more space, or if they just want to have a meeting, or they want to give a workshop, whatever they need, they can book this space for free anytime that is not occupied. Yeah. Then we have some artwork from live events that we've done in the past. Mostly the big ones are from live events. And the smaller ones are from sip and paint events that we've done also. I have a mural we did with some interns a couple of years ago. It was one of our artists' design, and they put it on the wall. And this is the kitchenette to warm up food, make coffee, bathrooms. Bathrooms are important, and everything is accessible.
That's right.
Because, you know, you go to some places and they have like a little thing that you can't even get in. This is all ADA accessible. And more studios for artists. And this is the studio for the resident artists that we have like 3 to 4 times a year. They get a stipend for being in the studio, for using the studio, and also for 3 community workshops. And they get to create in this studio for 3 months and use all the galleries for a solo show at the end of it. Usually I curate the show and I help with the process, because most of them, they have never had a show or even less a solo show. So it's very interesting to see the process of each person, how they figure out what they want to do, because we want them to do something personal. We don't want them to do something for other people. It has to be a project that is like, okay, something that you haven't been able to do because you have no time. Now this is the time you have to do it. And it's been really, really interesting.
No AI.
No AI. More artists. We have also
this is your work, right?
Yes. We have Peggy Robles, and she's done theater and books. She publishes. She's very active. And also Bronx Bound Books is here. They have their office here. Bronx Bound Books, the bus, the bookstore on wheels.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For the Red Sea buttons.
And the Bronx Filmmakers Collective, they also have it here, and they do all their workshops here. So, yeah, it's a variety of artists and disciplines and a mix of everything that we really enjoy.
So they come and go, I mean, how do they?
And this is 24/7 access for the people that are here, yeah.
Residents.
Mm-hmm.
Are they
The resident artists, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 24/7, you know, each person creates at a different time. Like I used to be more at night. No, at night I have to be sleeping.
Yeah.
But some people come at 6 in the morning, and some people come at 6 at night. So
Yeah, okay.
it's up to everybody.
Mm.
Just to
So here we are with Laura Alvarez at the BxArts Factory. She is the Vice President and COO of the BxArts Factory, and she is also a working artist. This is her studio, and everything that you see in the studio was created by her. So first I want to ask you, what is the mission of the BxArts Factory?
We want to bring art to the people, make art accessible, and make art accessible to artists as well. That's why we have spaces that are below market rents, so they can afford to be here and create in their own neighborhood.
Wonderful. So what is it that the BxArts Factory is currently doing? We just went on a tour of some amazing paintings and artworks. But what do you have coming up?
We have been working on this development, artist development workshops. So we have a lot of artists here, and they have a lot of knowledge. So we wanted to share that knowledge between all of us and other artists. And we've been doing Skillshare workshops and professional development workshops. And we also have workshops coming up from the new resident artist, Kay Poema, that she'll be teaching one workshop a month, November, December, January. And we have a holiday market. We try to do it every year, every holiday, and we open the studios. Mostly all the artists open their studios you can see their art and you can buy some of their art, and we invite other artists and artisans from the Bronx to sell. It's very popular.
Wonderful. And so if they're coming here, you are at 240 East 153rd Street in the Bronx.
Yes.
And
between Park Avenue and Morris Avenue.
Great. And the website, if they would like to get more information, or if they would like to make a donation, which would be wonderful.
You can make donations. You can also subscribe to the newsletter. That's very helpful if you want to be in the loop of whatever is happening here. And you can go to BxArtsFactory.org and just check us out.
All right. And that's also where they can learn how to participate in the programs that you have going on.
Yes. Usually we have an Eventbrite page, and all the events, we list them on Eventbrite. We are always publishing in social media, BxArts Factory, everywhere, and it's easy to find us and follow us so you know what's happening here.
Wonderful. And you yourself are an artist.
Yeah.
So what do you got going on right now? What are you working on?
I'm working on some illustrations for NYU. I finished some illustrations for Optimum as well, for some bags, like, grocery bags that they give you when you go to the store. I finished a mural for Cricket Wireless right here in the hub. And I will probably be starting soon another mural Midtown, where behind the Lincoln Center, there's the Amsterdam houses. And I did some murals last year, and we're doing a whole daycare this year.
Wonderful. And how can people get in contact with you?
Oh, you can go to my website, lauraalvarez.com. Just one A between. We have to be... have to save on A's. And I'm Big Eyes World on Instagram, on Facebook. You can find me. I'm easy to find. If you find my website, everything is in there. I have a YouTube channel that I usually post time lapses of whenever I can record a mural, or I've done paintings, and you can see the process. I feel like I love seeing the process from other people, how they create and how they do things. So I felt like why not to show how my process works?
And your YouTube is just under your name?
Same thing. Yeah. You can find me everywhere. And if you go to my website, I have all the links there. I also have a blog that I usually post what I'm doing or what I just finished. If I have open calls for people to come and help with murals, all that stuff.
And you are a working mom with 2 small children.
Yeah.
So for all the moms out there,
you can do this. It's hard, but I feel if I didn't have my art, I would probably have been feeling very lost. Because once you have 1 kid, and with 2 is even worse, your personal self, your old self disappears, and it's a new person. So how can you navigate that without going crazy? For me, it's art and creating art. Last year I did a residency with the Bronx art space in Governor's Island, and it was all a reflection of those 2 years, what happened in those 2 years, that I wasn't myself anymore, it's a new me, and how can I integrate all those pieces. So it's interesting. It's interesting being a mom and an artist at the same time.
The BxArts Factory offered the space to us for creative expressions and to do these interviews. So it's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hymn for St. Kitts and Nevis. Droplets of volcanic ooze hardened into unrelenting force. 2 islands, like diamonds set, glow in tropic sea. Food ripened by sun, nourished by springs and falls. Stalwart trees flourish, branches rooted, leaves entwined. Tears tumble over cliffs to the channel for those who rest there. Waters tossed by turbulent winds return to flood our shores. Footsteps widely tap to deep thunder of olden drums. Bodies swing with joyful melody in time to heart-strummed rhythms. Palm trees, young and supple, toss in hurricane winds. Bow heads to snapping point, spring back, erect after storms. Eyes lifted toward hills, hands open to skies. We reach beyond ourselves, grasp unseen hand for help. People free from fear. Children reach past the bonds of poverty, shame, bigotry, still strong, one nation under God.
That was wonderful. We are here at the BxArts Factory in the Bronx, New York, and we're doing our Creative Expressions NYC artist interviews. And that was just Heather Archibald that read about her life in St. Kitts, which is where she is from, but she lives sometimes in New York now. Back and forth a lot. So, what was it like growing up in St. Kitts?
Well, when I look back, it seems idyllic. Growing up there, it seems a good place to be. That's all I knew. And now I realize the things that maybe we took for granted are those things that I hold dear today. Like the sea that was right across the road from us, where we spent our summers or Saturdays. We weren't allowed to go in the sea on Sundays. That was for Sunday school at church, and sometimes 2 Sunday schools and 2 church services. But it was the rhythm of our lives. Every now and again, we'll walk over the hills, go to the beach area, sort of, the white sand beaches. We lived in the black sand, the volcanic part of the island. And white sand, for some reason, is always considered, for us, it was like, oh, it's so different. The sea was more shallow and, and more conducive to not drowning. as it was in where we grew up. The water was very deep.
Okay. So did you know you were a poet in St. Kitts?
Well, I wouldn't have called myself a poet in St. Kitts, but I did write poetry quite young. I think when I was an early to mid-teenager, my father was he was the editor of one of the island papers, and we had two papers. One was for the one political party, and the other one that my father was the opposition party. So he was, for a couple of years he was the editor, and he would publish poems. They used to publish poems in the paper, and he published a couple of my poems, and that gave me made me feel like, well, people are reading my writing, especially once when I got a letter, which I've since lost since I've come here, from a notable teacher who was now living in Canada, and he wrote about a poem I wrote it was based on the I can't remember the name of it, the Anthurium lily, and he raved about this poem, and I was like, that was my first. People would say, oh, I like your poem in the paper, but this was like, he really read, critiqued this poem in such a wonderful way that I knew I was a poet then, even though I wouldn't say it, I knew I had touched something in somebody who was considered intelligent and a man of letters and all that, so.
Mm-hmm. So, what were some of the poets and artists that inspired you?
Well, my father read a lot of poetry. His degree was in English, and when I thought, when I going to school and reading the mostly British literature that I read when I was in school, because we were a colony, mm-hmm. and I mean, I was just at the point where they started bringing the Caribbean writers to the forefront, but I didn't understand them. They seemed a little way above my head at the time, but I could understand Wordsworth and Blake, and I loved Wordsworth, and my father did too, so he would recite poems, even like the daffodils, and so I grew up with that. I know people smirk when I say that now, because it seems like, oh my God, but those things just sit with you. The other things that I liked, we were in church a lot, and I love the hymns, and I think I think that was the beginning of poetry for me, the poetry in the hymns, and the fact that I could, the rhythm, and sometimes I'm singing a song and I don't know that word, and I stop, go look it up, and so I think it was the beginning of my love of language, and or maybe I had the love, and that's why I love those things. I don't know which came first.
So that poem that you just read is called Hymn. Is that because of that?
Because I wrote this for one of the, every year we have a celebration of our independence for St. Kitts and Nevis here in New York, and I wrote this for such a reading, because I used to read there now I tell them, it's okay, I've done enough of that. And they haven't asked, so they don't even know if I'm here anyway. So, yeah, I thought, it was like, I don't know if it lives to the hymns that I remember and just cherish, but it is kind of doing the task, I guess, of a hymn, giving praise,
Very cool. So your other home is New York, and could you read the second poem, or the poem from Moving to New York?
Other home, New York City, with its kick, flash, and traffic flow, hollows life from florid posters and graffitied walls. Commingled scents of garbage escape subways, chokes in summer heat. October freshness wakes the senses. New York City can stir giddy fair in midnight streets, lit even as she dozes. But you can come upon an unexpected garden down on Avenue B and 6th Street in a valley between skyscrapers, a place where mint grows in summertime. Grapevines wind themselves around trellises, fireflies light up corners, and crickets play. There's a wooden bench where you can sit to ponder or dream. And maybe, if you're lucky, someone strums a guitar, or a band plays East Indian music, sultry and mysterious, or someone reads a poem in this New York City where an island girl finds home.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. So
I love New York. You know, for the first couple of years, I was would be stunned by everything. You know, they say he who sees little and she marvels much. But I just was so taken back by the city, by its life. I was never really afraid. You know, sometimes a little nervous, but I just, you know, and people, the older folk, the people who are now my age, who are the age I am now, would say, "You're not afraid, you're always going out." Never stopped me. I just wanted to be everywhere. You know, I love Central Park. They're like, "You're gonna get killed in Central Park." It never stopped me. And I know that I was searching for that vegetation that I left at home, which was a lot of it was in New York City, because we thought of New York City as stone and plaster, you know, which probably it is, but it's so softened by the greenery and, you know, the little patches of, you know, land on the parts that, you know, nobody could build a house on, so they make it a garden. Just wonderful.
yeah, I'm also an immigrant to New York, and I feel the same way. It's sort of like full of wonder when you first come here, and it kind of stays that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. When I'm in St. Kitts, I want to come back to New York as badly as when I'm here, and I want to go back to St. Kitts. So I think I would say, I think I've spent half of my life up to this point, even though I spent here 40 years, because I went home so much. I have patches of 5 years here, and maybe, you know, 4 years of 3 months would make a year, that kind of thing that I was able to do. So I haven't been many other places in the world because I want to go home so much.
So this is, you consider it home, but you really consider St. Kitts home.
My book is home because in a parlance, if we say, let's say I'm gonna go home, whatever, let's say I'm somewhere else, not in my house, and somebody thinks I mean here, and I say, no, home. That's not just, I'm not the only person who said that. A lot of people, we refer to that other home as home. So, you know, that's, you know, the book is about home. But in there is home, right? So it's, one is home and one is home. So one is a subset of the other, let's say.
So what have you been doing since you've been in New York? What kinds of things you've been doing?
Well, I came to New York with the glorified dream of becoming a lawyer. And then I found out it wasn't that I would have to do a first degree in some other area. In the Caribbean, you could just go to law school. So I chose English because I taught English in St. Kitts before I came as a student teacher. And then I went to Teachers College. So I'd done quite a bit. I was 24 when I came here, but I had been in school and jumped from one side of the desk to the other as a student teacher, and then went to Teachers College, spent another year, and then New York called me. And I came here for vacation in '81, my sister and I. And people would say, "Are you gonna stay?" Because usually that's what happens with teachers, right? You're aching to go to college, and only a few people, chosen ones, usually people who belong to a particular party, get a chance to go. And so I knew that I wasn't going to go because my father loved being opposition, so opposition to the government, right? He opposed one, he opposed the other. And I think he was right a lot of times looking back, but we knew that it would be difficult for them to pick us for college. So I knew I thought I was going to go to England. But I came here for vacation and I went back, and they say I never really did come back. And so the next year I came as a student.
So one of the things that you've done since you've been here, and one of the things that we work on together, but only because of what you did, is you saved Creative Expressions NYC. Can you tell us about that?
Well, first of all, I must say that Monica Hand, who has since passed, created what was then Open Expressions. Actually, it didn't even have a name when she started it. She got a place to let her keep the salon there because it was a place she chose to have a book launch. And from then on, we would meet every Thursday, and just some wonderful people. And I had never been to something like that. In fact, when I go home and I say salon, people are like, okay. We do have readings and stuff though, but that whole business of being in a place of business, or where you should sit and eat, drink coffee or whatever, and to have this wonderful thing going on there was just remarkable. And so shortly after she opened it though, she left because she went to pursue a doctorate degree. I think it was in Ohio. And sadly, 4 years after, just before she finished her dissertation, she passed away. Shocking, We were so looking forward to her coming back to New York. Anyway, when she left after Open Expressions, which it didn't have a name at the time, but this thing that happened on Thursday nights, after she left like 6 months after to pursue the degree, and she left it in the hands of Cissy Falls, who named it and gave it a Facebook presence and kept it for about 5-6 years. And one day I got a notice that said, I went back to do my MFA at City College, and this was down on 129th Street and Malcolm X, I think. And one day I got the message that says, we're having the last one, we're coming to the final, salon. And I don't even think I was close enough to Cissy. I don't think I had her number, but I definitely left class that night and went down, took a taxi down to Lennox Coffee. It was the name of the place where we met on 129th Street near to Malcolm X. Lennox, I think it's Lennox, yes. So I went down there and got there early because I left class early, and said, Cissy, are you really telling me this is it? And she said, yes, I have to go. She was going back to Oakland where she was from. And she said, so I said, oh, what a pity you couldn't find anybody to continue it. And she looked me dead in the eye. I said, will you continue it? Of course, I put my mouth in there, right? So, and my heart was, and I said, yeah, but I can't. Well, she did everything. Well, I found out later she had somebody who helped her with the advertisements and stuff and the computer stuff, the media stuff. And but she was the chief cook and bottle washer that we saw, right? So she would be the MC, and she, just everything around her. And I said, I can't MC, I can't, because at that time I was suffering with my knees. I said, I can't be getting up every minute to MC. My thing is, when I sit down, I need to stay seated. And she said, well, we could get somebody to work with you. And she said it she said, Heather's going to pick it up. She needs some help. And Robert and Ed, Tony, stepped up right away, and so we were able to work as a little team. Sometimes it didn't always work out, and manage it through quite a few years until COVID.
Yeah, this would be your 7th year, right?
This would be my 7th year, but remember, it would be the 14th year of the
organization.
salon.
Yeah, 14.
And we got a name change. We went online, so it grew and changed in ways that it must in order to survive.
Yeah, and now we now Creative Expressions NYC is in person at Dada.
Yes.
Literary Cafe in Queens.
Yes.
But we also are in the Bronx sometimes.
Yes.
And other places.
And I was thinking that most of us are stationed in the Bronx, so we could say we have a Bronx address, right?
Yeah.
I think. And I think, I was looking at the space there. I'm thinking we could do something here, right? One of these days we could talk about that.
BxArts Factory would help us, maybe.
Yeah. Here at the Bronx. Is it the Bronx Arts Factory? That's what I call it, but I hear you say the
BxArts Factory.
Arts Factory.
Yeah, BX Bronx.
Yes, I know it means Bronx, but in my head I always say Bronx Arts Factory. Okay. Nice place.
Yeah. So, for a final question, if somebody wanted to start writing poetry, like say a young person, and they wanted to really learn about poetry, what would be some of the poets that you would recommend that they read?
Well, it depends on where they are. If in New York, I would certainly, Langston Hughes comes to mind as a great start. He has a lot of poems that children would like. I didn't discover Langston Hughes until I came to this country. And he was one of the first, he and Maya Angelou were my first two American writers. And I just reveled in them because I saw so much similarity. When I picked up a book, I was cleaning and I picked up half of a book, the first chapter had gone, and I read Maya Angelou's book. And I'm reading the Cage Bird book. I just knew that because at the top of the page, I know where the Cage Bird sings. And she's writing about her grandmother, I think Henderson was her name. And that was my grandmother. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a grandmother in the South. I was so struck. I was 24. I wasn't young, but in a way I was young because I'd grown up in this small place and, we did read some American books, but they were mostly books out of not necessarily black writers. And we read like Bobsy, not Bobsy Twins. Was it Bobsy Twins? Gee, I forget. Nancy Drew and the Hattie Boys, and I think the Bobsy Twins was in there. I don't remember where they. And we read British books. So and Caribbean literature had just started to seem palatable to us growing up. When I read them I started reading them first. The poetry was great, but when I started reading them, like George Lamin, and they seemed like they were, even though they were written about Caribbean life, they just seemed very like erudite and kind of above my my intellectual level. Now when I read them, I wonder why I felt that way. Maybe the print was so, forbidding, I don't know. But yeah, definitely, to get back to the question you asked, I would start at Langston Hughes for poetry. And all those other, people like, oh God, I don't not remember the names now, June Jordan. I read, what's her name? Audre Lorde. She wasn't, okay, let me not say anything about Audre Lorde. I don't want all the people who love her to, but it was a later reading for me. And I don't know if I would, if somebody wanted to read, I would definitely tell them to read poetry. I can't remember this other lady I love so much, the one who just died not so long ago, Nikki Giovanni. Yeah. Right? I mean, and some of the newer people like Natasha Specialway. Who else? And some of the guys, of course. And of course, Walt Whitman I love. Not Walt Whitman. Yeah, I love Walt Whitman. And I love Walt Whitman. His name come to mind, but that wasn't the one I was going to prod my K for Caribbean Child. They may want to read that. And there are a lot of Caribbean writers now. There's a festival in Brooklyn called the Brooklyn Caribbean Literary Festival, and you get a lot of poetry coming through. They're not famous people like those who are dead become, but and you know what? I started reading poetry. I started with poems that were simple, but they spoke to me. I love the daffodils. I still would teach you daffodils, but somebody's gonna think that something's wrong with that, because the cadence, the rhythm, I wandered slowly as a cloud, lonely. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vale and hill, and all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils beside the lake, beneath the trees, dancing and something in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of the bay. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. I missed a couple of words in there, but I learned that poem when I was not even in high school yet, because my father loved it and he would read it to us. And I didn't know what daffodils were. I know they were flowers, and I think at some point I went to the library. We didn't have these gadgets to Google, so and looked up daffodils and saw that they were flowers like some of the flowers that we had, right? We had the periwinkle, we had what the other little one is, I can't remember, but we had a number of flowers. So in my head, I just picture a host of these flowers along the beach, because the beach was right next to me, so I could, even though it was a poem written in England, it was meaningful to me as a Caribbean person. The politics of it didn't hit me then, that why are we reading? I don't care. I read something about anything that I could connect with, because it's ultimately people, right?
Yeah.
So people who want to write poetry must read poetry.
Yes.
I think that's where you want to write poetry, right? But maybe not. Maybe the other forces that make somebody like grief or not being able to express yourself, you might go into poetry that way. So I'm not excluding anybody. But I think that if you're going to be a better poet, at some point you must read poetry.
Yeah, because you have to learn your craft.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like any other art form.
Yes. Yeah, because it's good to express yourself, but you want to express yourself in a controlled and I don't know, maybe not. You want to have some sort of discipline, not discipline, the bad word that I hate really, in other things, but you want to know what people who are doing your craft, what they're doing. Not that you have to do what they do, but you want to know, how is this? Maybe I can try this way, You might want to know forms, right? Because these forms have existed before you. So you should at least explore them, and then you could write whatever you want to write,
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you get a toolbox or a box of paints that sometimes there are paints in there you didn't even know were possible until you studied it and you start,
And you could reject some of it,
Yeah, you don't have to use it all, but you can use it. It's there.
If you want to.
Exactly.
If it appeals to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, I like to think of it as food, the whole table of smorgasbord of everything. But everything's not gonna appeal to me, neither by its looks or its taste. and so I could reject some and just have my plate full of what I like or what I want to
Right.
try. So, I think that it gives you a lot to work with, a toolbox or a table of wood to choose.
a set of paints, a set of colors to work with, so you can paint something.
Or all the
You know?
flavors of ice cream.
I always
You
think
don't
of
have to
poetry.
eat all of it.
I always think of poetry as sort of like painting with words.
Uh-huh.
You know, the
Well,
way that we use metaphors in poems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the words of my earliest poetry teacher, who, well, all through elementary school, poetry was a part of, not now so much in St. Kitts. Poetry was a part of it because we would learn the poems by rote, and we will learn them in the classroom, and we will say them all together. That I think has died. I don't even think teachers who come to teach the literary arts even consider poetry as an important part of the English curriculum, even though it's in the books. So that's one of the things I'm trying to do, to bring back a love of poetry in the elementary school and in high school. So I'm working on a project for that. I've been working on it for a while now. I need to get it in deal with the powers that be, because you can't just go into a school anymore and a teacher can't invite you in to do something. You have to go to the person who's the chief education officer, and he might not even.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get an appointment for the last couple of years. I wasn't consistent, but I plan to.
And you were a professor of English for a while.
Yes, yeah. And I taught English in the Caribbean too. I was home for 5 years in 96 to 2001, and I taught the English program for the external exams for what would be considered above high school level, so like first year college here, and I think I excited something, and I worked hard at it, so yeah, I don't know me as that, but other things.
So
You can delete that. I don't want anybody watching it from sake. Getting on my nerves. Yeah.
So I'd like to end with you reading a poem that's written in something called vernacular, called Marcus of the Woods.
I'm just reading where was it now? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is a poem about, this is actually a story that I got from the archives in St. Kitts about this enslaved man who refused to be a slave and left the estate and was always coming back and forth. So this is I guess the legend. It's a true story, because I was able to read the newspaper events, the events that happened to him in the newspaper, but this is my version of it. Marcus of the Woods. Marcus come down when the moon is dim. Marcus done gone and they can't catch him. When the moon is low in the eastern sky, and Massa and his men gone shut the eye, there comes a shadow down by the cane, and the folks know that Marcus is here again. Long time ago Marcus followed his will. He left the estate for the woods up the hill. The Massa men search and swear by the book, but they can't catch him as much as they look. Marcus broad like the mountain, tall like a tree, a big African vowing to always live free. He bathed in the springs and trap what he can. He dig up potatoes and live off the land. Then some time pass and the blacks agitate. They burn down the cane and leave the estate. Marcus helped them make their home in the wood so that they could live free as best as they could. Marcus come down when the moon is dim. Marcus done gone and they can't catch him. Marcus know where all the runaways be. But where he rests his head, no one could see. So when they catch and hang the rest in a tree, Marcus was still out there in the woods, living free. But every so often he missed folk from the estate, and once in a while, when it get really late, he whistles a tune at some girlfriend's shack, who ain't surprised to hear that Marcus come back. By the time Massa wake up in the wee dawn, Marcus done take what he want and he gone. The Massa man hunt for him all through the day, but they can't figure out where that Marcus does stay. They harass all the blacks and give them some licks, but none of them tell about Marcus' smart tricks. Long time he come and go as he please, worrying the master, giving them little ease. Marcus come down when the moon is dim. Marcus done gone and they can't catch him. When master and his men meet to hunt for this man, the estate folk send message and warn about the plan. But one day, the gunmen sneak out on a whim. They surrounded Marcus and took aim at him. Marcus raised up the cutlass, rushed out in wrath. The men dropped their rifle and dashed down the path. They said, this man Marcus has some kind of charm. He spooked the gunmen. They could do him no harm. And whenever Marcus met a hunter alone, he would beat him with sticks and pelt him with stone. The white men get angry. They just couldn't rest. What this dumb nigger man think he is the best? Marcus come down when the moon is dim. Marcus done gone and they can't catch him. Then one day, Massa say that Marcus done dead. He say how they shoot Marcus twice in the head. The blacks them no better. Marcus can't die. No bullet could catch him. Massa just telling lie. And even if they don't see Marcus no more, there'll be some bush rum behind somebody's door. And when the overseer fell dead beating a man, the blacks knew that he fell by Marcus' strong hand. And the women then swore he had taken some food, and the men often guessed he had piled up the wood. And sometimes there's a whistle upon the still air, and the people wink, knowing Marcus is there. Marcus come down when the moon is dim. Marcus done gone and they can't catch him.
Thank you so much, Heather. It's been a wonderful interview. For all those people out there listening, check out Heather's book, Home Home, and check out Creative Expressions NYC. Thank you. And check out the BxArts Factory.
Yes.
They have a lot going on.
Yes.
Thank you.